Thanks so much for joining me, Jagan.
No problem.
This is your first year in the starter role. How do you feel you've grown as a starter at Lake Forest College as compared to when you were a starter with Yuma Catholic High School?
Yeah, so playing at the college level, it's definitely a lot more fast-paced, and you got to kind of pick up week by week. But I feel like I've done well so far this season of just playing my role, doing the best of my ability, and being a starter in high school definitely contributed to that and helping me week by week and growing.
Last week against Lawrence was certainly a pretty dramatic game. What was it like, leading the offense into the end zone for a winning score all the way back from your own 31-yard line?
Yeah, it was definitely, just kind of every game you imagine always coming down to the last seconds and then leading your team to a victory. But, it took us 3 or 4 plays to drive, 70-plus yards, and we got the job done.
As a quarterback, both back in your youth league games, high school, college, have you ever had a chance to do that before when you're in the fourth quarter and you have a chance to lead your offense down to the other end zone?
That was my second time in the final minutes trying to lead my team to a victory, but that was the first time we actually got the victory out of it. So
it's a good first.
Yep.
And also against Lawrence, freshman receiver Stanford Ellis, he caught his first ever touchdown pass. What's it like being a part of, throwing the first pass, being a part of something they'll never forget, being a part of really history for them?
Yeah, it's huge. Even though he's a freshman, he's been playing like a veteran, and he's been doing very well this season. And I can relate to, how he was when I was starting as a freshman. And, you can be nervous and stuff, but he's definitely stepped up to the occasion, and he's done well, and that's why he got a touchdown last game.
Joey Valdivia in 8 games, 1,200 yards, 21 touchdowns. He's really helped develop the rushing game for Lake Forest. And that's not to say there's certainly not a great passing presence. Has that really developed, Lake Forest you view as both a running powerhouse and you have a passing game you definitely have to look for defenses?
Yeah, when you have a running back like Joey Valdivia, it definitely makes my job a lot easier in the passing game when the defense is all worried about him. But, between Joey Valdivia and our offensive line, who, really makes his job a lot easier and makes my job a lot easier, at the end of the day, it's just kind of being a balanced offense, and that really helps us to put up points on the board and get W's.
Senior tailback Charlie Quinn, what's it like been working with him where he's kind of transitioned out of the running back role? He still takes carries, obviously, but Joey's taken over as a starter, but he's done a great job catching passes throughout this year. What's it like been working with him?
Yeah, he's definitely been he's one of our team captains, and he's a great team captain. And he's one of those guys who is just a selfless guy who will do anything that the coaches ask of him. He's done that all season, and I think that's why he's been put in the position that he's been put in, and he's been succeeding so far this season.
As a quarterback, you probably have a pretty good relationship with some of your offensive line guys. What's your experience been with some of the guys in the offensive line and Coach Sengson?
Yeah, they're definitely a different group of guys. I'd say the offensive line is the closest group of guys on the team.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people say the defensive line, but offensive line.
I think the offensive line definitely has
wow.
it. But, it's nice knowing that, I think they like me, and I like them, and knowing that they have my back every game and they'll do whatever it takes to protect me in the pocket, and same with Coach Sengson, just, calling the right offensive plays. And, I definitely believe in him, and I think he believes in me, and just having that trust between the three groups of the offensive line, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback, I think really helps our offense.
Growing up, did you know you always wanted to be a quarterback, or did you play a different position?
No, growing up in Pop Warner, I was a tight end and a defensive end, and I always kind of imagined myself as a wide receiver. I always wanted to be the guy in the end zone catching the touchdown passes. And then my freshman year of high school, the head coach moved me to quarterback for a tryout. Did pretty well, and then stuck with it all 4 years, and then same throughout college. So.
That's interesting, because usually it's a transition from quarterback to wide receiver, but you went from wide receiver to quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
And Alex Pashowitz, who went from running back to wide receiver, there's a lot of offensive players who have transitioned between different roles. Have you ever talked to him about what you played at high school as compared to college?
Yeah, we've talked about it, and there has been a bunch of different guys like Alex Pashowitz who went from running back to receiver. Max Sorby did the same thing, went to running back to receiver. But when you play at this level, anyone can play. It's just like where you best fit. So, I mean, like, I'm definitely glad that I moved to quarterback. I think it's where I succeeded the most, and Paz being at wide receiver, it's definitely where he succeeded the most, and definitely this season since he's been one of our top receivers.
Your three backups, Zach Wade, Billy Degnan, and L.J. Smith. What's your relationship been with them? You probably spent a lot of time with them.
Yeah, we're a close group of guys. 2 out of the 3 backups are actually my roommates, and we're all sophomores, and then Billy's a freshman. But it's been great having them this season. They help me a lot throughout games, just being on the sideline, giving me a lot of advice of what they're seeing versus what I'm seeing on the field. And same with practice, I'll tell them a little bit of things that I see that they don't see, and vice versa. So I think we work well together, and I mean, there's definitely no hard feelings between any of us, and it's been going well this season.
Growing up, who was your favorite football team?
New Orleans Saints.
So did you idolize some of their quarterbacks?
Oh yeah,
maybe Drew Brees or Archie Manning ever?
Yeah.
Or who was the quarterback that really stood out, or a player that stood out to you growing up?
I really liked Drew Brees. I idolized him growing up. I thought he was kind of my idol just because since he is a shorter quarterback in the NFL, I do really respect that, and just kind of how he keeps his composure throughout games. He's not a real flashy guy. He does what he has to do for the team, and I really like that about him.
At 5'11", there's always concerns about whether you can see over the offensive line. Have you ever viewed that as a challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it is a challenge, but I think our offensive line averages between 6'3" and 6'4", so even if I was 6'2", I still want to be able to see over them. So I mean, it is easy. I've adapted to it. Seeing between them, seeing around them, and things like that. So it's something I don't really worry about too much.
Coming from Yuma Catholic all the way in the western part of Arizona, how did you get involved with Lake Forest College?
So there was a kid from my hometown who actually played at Lake Forest College. He sent my film to Coach Cat and kind of put my name out there for me. And so Coach Cat saw my film and then contacted me. And then I was talking to Coach Cat back and forth for a while, and then made my decision a little late in the process, but finally decided to commit here to play football.
On campus, you're probably seen, I guess, as the quarterback, one of the more recognizable faces of maybe the football team. Do you view you have a different role as a quarterback on campus?
I don't think so. I think we're all kind of viewed as one big group of guys, and when you're viewed as a football player, you're just kind of viewed as a football player. It doesn't really matter what position you play. So when it comes to being on campus, I think we're all viewed pretty similar, and that's what I kind of like about us. So.
And finally, with Halloween coming up, you got to tell us what are you being for Halloween? What's your costume? If you've picked one out yet.
You know what? I think I'm going to be Napoleon Dynamite, and then my roommate is going to be Pedro.
That is always a great choice. It's a classic.
Yep. So.
Thanks so much for joining me, Jagan.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been 3 weeks since our last interview, Coach, but it's great to see you again.
It's good to be back with you, man.
Coach, your Foresters are 6-2 right now. Have the playoffs been on your mind at all?
Unfortunately, we've probably lost out on our opportunities at the playoffs. Really, without winning the conference championship this year, which Monmouth is kind of in the driver's seat with that with St. Norbert, and we've lost to both teams. We really can't get our way into the playoffs unless we were to get in at large, and there's only 6 in the entire country. I don't think they'll get far enough down. So we're not really worried about the playoffs. We're just trying to do the same thing we were doing in week 1, and that's go 1-0 this week. And if we do that, we'll be in good shape.
Last week against Lawrence, you were in a pretty tough situation. 56 seconds left on the clock, down at your own 31-yard line. You go on to score in only 3 plays. What's going on in your head as a coach?
As the head coach, I'm just trying to be calm, and I'm trying to manage the clock. So whether it's calling the timeouts or doing any of that kind of stuff, and let Coach Sankson make all the play call decisions and personnel decisions. We practice the 2-minute drill twice every week, so I mean it's something that we're very comfortable with as a team. We know the plays we're going to be calling, so there's no surprises. Our guys have literally run through that script 2 or 3 times before they get to the game. So for me, it was actually really calming to be, as long as we got the ball back, it was pretty calm at that point. I felt like we had more than enough time. We still had a timeout, and I thought that our players kind of snapped out of a funk that they were in a little bit. Once the game got tied up, that really made them focus in and lock in, and it wasn't necessarily a clean play the way we drew it up that moved the ball the most distance, but it was still something we practiced in our scramble drill that should have been there.
And as a coach, is that the reason really why you get into coaching, for those situations where you're making those decisions and really those stressful situations, or is that a dreadful situation to be in.
I think when you're prepared, you don't really dread the situation. Now, is it the most exciting thing in the world? No, because I didn't feel like we should be in that situation. Had we executed better earlier in the game and done the other things more successfully, had we kicked our extra points through the uprights instead of off the uprights, we wouldn't have been in a situation where we had to worry about that. When they decided to go for 1 in the tie instead of the 2 in the win, it also gave you that kind of sense of, okay, worst case scenario, we're going to be in an overtime situation and we're going to have another chance. This isn't our only chance to take the lead. But still, you don't want to risk going into overtime because anything can happen on a 25-yard field, and you want to make sure you give yourself a chance. So I don't know that it was like exciting for me. It was just kind of one of those things like, all right, let's go do what we're supposed to do, win the game and get off the field, because that's all we really care about is getting the win.
This year you've performed very well on special teams, and that's definitely due in part to Alex Pashwood's great performances on kickoffs. He's had three return touchdowns so far and had another great game against Lawrence. Do you view him as the greatest kickoff returner in Lake Forest College history?
Definitely in the time that I've been here. I find it really interesting, though, that one of the records he broke was held by one of his teammates from high school. So him and Darius McKay are both Zion Benton grads. Then they had both been very prolific kick returners for us. Alex has helped us a ton. He's given us a spark in multiple games. It was definitely a spark in the Lawrence game this past week, where we get down 7-0, and then he takes that next kickoff and returns it for a touchdown. And I think that our guys, really expect that anytime that he touches the ball, that he has a chance to take it all the way. And what's interesting about it is he's not like the most explosive speed guy, but he's able to really read things and be patient and hit the cut and be where he needs to be to score a touchdown. And I think that he gave a lot of energy to the team. But Coach Butts has done a great job schematically. I mean, one of our other touchdowns is a blocked punt for a touchdown. And we're leading the nation in blocked kicks. And a lot of that is a schematic thing. When you're going against different punt formations every week and different field goal extra point formations, it's not like going into the NFL where you see the same punt formation from every team all year long. We've seen probably 8 different punt formations in 8 weeks. And so for him to be able to find ways to use our talented players to get there, you've got a great opportunity for success if you can take advantage of other people's maybe weaknesses in the special teams, or just give them a look that they haven't seen from you that week so that you can have that advantage.
Alex is a senior, and he'll have senior day this week. At what point during his career did you realize he can really make an impact both as a receiver and on special teams?
Well, what's funny is originally when he came here, he was a tailback. And homecoming game his freshman year, he busts through the line on a 3rd and 1 or 2nd and 1 or something like that and goes 45 yards for the game-winning touchdown. And it was in that moment that you could see he had that special knack for just finding that small crease and going. And as he started to spend more time in the return game, that's when we really were able to see, with him and Darius and him and Joey Kropp, 3 guys in 4 years who are all in the top 10 of our kick return game, and their averages are up there. So it's not like they just had a bunch of extra returns. Their average is up there. And so for me, when we saw him getting those things and making big returns and the way he held on to the football, you could just tell he had that knack. And so it was pretty good his freshman year, and then it got better as he put more time into it.
Obviously, you're a coach that doesn't like to look at records, but you're facing this week against Knox. They're currently 1-6. What do you see in that football team?
I see a team that's been playing really well the last 2 weeks. They played both Cornell and Illinois College to 3 or 4 point games and had the lead in the 4th quarter. And I think with their youth that they're just trying to figure out how to close those games out. They fought themselves into a position to have the lead, and now they just have to close the game out. So they're a frightening team. They have some really good talent at running back and at wide receiver, and those are guys that, as we're watching them, we've got to find the right matchup. And if we can get the right matchup, we'll be in really good shape. Defensively, they run a 3-4 defense similar to ours, but they run it quite a bit differently. And so it's something we should be familiar with, but their nuances are going to be their own nuances, and I'm sure they'll have a few things drawn up for us. But they're an extremely well-coached team. We know their coaches very well. They've been pretty consistent throughout the league. Their offensive coordinator's been in the league for 6 or 7 years, and Coach Myers, our D-line coach's son, is one of their coaches, and so there's a lot of crossover between the teams. Coach Gibbons, their DB coach, his daughter works for us in the football office up here, so there's just a lot of interpersonal relationships there. And so we know they're a good team, well coached. They're young, and I think that as they continue to get some more experience, they got a chance to be really good. We just don't want to be the team that they have their coming out party against.
Senior Day is this week. What are some things you're looking forward to?
One of the best parts about Senior Day is seeing our players walk down the gauntlet with their parents. Holding them onto mom's arm and dad carrying their helmet, and just having a chance to celebrate the whole family contribution to the program, beyond just the players, because so many of our parents and their support to our team, they're really the unsung heroes. They're the ones that are cooking the dinner after the game for the whole team. They're the ones that are bringing support during the Forrester Walk and cheering our guys on, even home or away. And sometimes when we go away, they're the only ones cheering for us. And so to have them have that opportunity to walk down Farwell Field with the guys and have that picture and that keepsake that they're going to look back on and think of the 4 years that they were in the program, I hope that it'll be a great experience for everybody. And the other best part is after we win, we get to go celebrate in the tailgate with them, and that's an important part of who we are as Forrester family, is making sure that we always get together after the game and spend time with one another.
How does this year's group of seniors, as you mentioned before, about 18 or 19 guys, how does it compare to the previous ones you've had in your 8th season as a head coach here?
Every group is different, and every group has its own nuances and specialties. And one thing about this group is they're really good on the field. I mean, you've got guys who are record holders and get multiple all-conference award winners. But the contribution that these guys made to our program was really the gelling of our team and making it a strong brotherhood. And I think that their efforts in that manner are really what have set them apart from some other groups. I mean, other classes do that, but this group has really had a no-ego approach to making sure that everybody feel wanted and a part of the program. And I also look at these guys and I see guys who have sacrificed, personal stats and personal goals and personal plays and touches. A guy like Charlie Quinn, who, coming into the season is 9th all-time in rushing in school history, and he openly takes a back seat to Joey because Joey wins the job and finds a way to contribute as a receiver and catching passes. You see other guys who understand that they're going to be a part of a rotation instead of being the guy. And I think that their willingness to sacrifice that for team success is something you don't see in every team, every class that you're a part of. And hopefully the lessons that they've demonstrated to the guys, that are below them academically in class years, they'll learn those lessons and carry that forward and make that a hallmark of our football program.
Thanks so much for joining me this week, Coach.
No problem. Good to be back.